Hello everyone, straight from Brazil to the world, you are on the Boosted Man channel. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos.
The invisible moment when respect dies. There's an almost imperceptible instant, the moment her gaze changes. You feel it, but you can't explain it. Before there was curiosity, now there's judgment. Before there was openness, now there's distance. It's in that subtle, nearly spiritual instant that respect begins to die. Not because you said the wrong thing, but because something inside you bent. Most men never notice that turning point. They think they lost her interest because they texted too much, showed too much vulnerability, or took too long to respond. But what truly kills respect isn't the action itself. It's the energy behind it. When desire comes from need, she feels it. When a compliment comes from fear, she senses it. When a man acts to be accepted instead of acting from his own presence, he gives away the throne before ever sitting on it. The feminine psyche operates on an energetic, unconscious level. Her body reads a man's emotional field before his words even register. And when that vibration carries doubt, submission, or neediness, her instinctive admiration shuts off. The feminine respects the masculine that remains centered, even when tested. But here's where many men get lost. They mistake centeredness for coldness. They repress their emotions, fake indifference, avoid depth. Yet the feminine unconscious always feels the difference between real composure and pretended control. A man who fakes detachment doesn't feel strong, he feels disconnected. And she senses that instantly. Respect isn't earned through performance. It rises from coherence. When your desire doesn't come from lack, but from choice. When you can want a woman without needing her. When you offer presence instead of pleading. A man who seeks love must first learn to be whole, because respect is born from integrity, and where there is self-abandonment, there can be no respect. A relationship is a mirror. Every time you shrink, the reflection fades. Every time you try to please, the reflection blurs. But when you return to yourself, breathe, remember who you are, the mirror expands again. She sees what you radiate. And when your presence vibrates security, not arrogance, not desperation, but calm rootedness, the feminine relaxes and respect is reborn. This video is an invitation to emotional lucidity, not to blame, but to understand what really happens in the invisible layers of attraction. Because feminine respect isn't lost through words, it's lost in the energetic field. And that's exactly where you'll find it again. The man who understands this stops reacting. He starts emanating. He doesn't need to prove anything. He simply is. And what he is, whole, conscious, grounded, awakens in her a silent, almost ancestral respect. The invisible wound of the man who wants to be chosen. You think she lost respect because you insisted too much, texted one more time, or showed interest too early. But what really happened runs deeper. She felt that your desire came from need, not from presence. She felt it in the way your eyes asked for approval, in the silence that came from fear instead of peace, in the touch that sought validation instead of connection. And in that subtle, decisive instant, she stopped seeing you as a man. Because you stopped being a choice and became a request. Every man who's ever loved too much knows this invisible pain. The wound of wanting to be chosen. You believe love will come as a reward for loyalty. You give everything, offer everything, believing your devotion will make you worthy. But the more you give, the further she drifts away. At the unconscious level, the man who wants to be accepted is replaying an old pattern. The boy who once tried to prove to his mother that he deserved love. He learned early that love was a prize, not a natural state, and carries that belief into adulthood, projecting that same longing onto women who now represent the emotionally distant mother figure. But the feminine doesn't respect a masculine that seeks love like a child. She respects the masculine that stands as an axis, that can love without begging, be present without dissolving, desire without losing his center. When you act from need, the energy inverts. You try to win her with patience and understanding, but what she feels is weakness. It's not cruelty, it's instinct. The feminine loses respect not because you misspoke, but because she sensed you'd lost sovereignty over yourself. In the feminine unconscious, respect is linked to direction. When a man radiates clarity and purpose, she relaxes. When he vibrates doubt and dependence, she steps into the guiding role. And that's when desire dies. The feminine only surrenders to the masculine that leads its own path. The emotional symbol is clear: the man who offers the throne just to be seen as king. He believes that giving everything, time, attention, devotion, will earn recognition. But respect is born when the man keeps the throne, even in silence. When he doesn't need validation to know he's king. What you emit determines the role she takes. If you seek approval, she becomes the evaluator. If you seek love, she becomes the mirror of your emptiness. But if you stand in presence, she becomes receptive. You don't need to be cold, distant, or arrogant. You need to be whole. Because the man who molds himself to her desire loses form, and the formless man cannot be respected. The game shifts the moment you stop trying to prove your worth and start living from it. When you understand that respect isn't something she grants, it's something she perceives. That's when the boy disappears and the man emerges. The one who once sought approval now offers presence. The one who once begged to be chosen now chooses. And the feminine instinctively responds to that reversal, because respect is nothing more than her natural reaction to a man who has reclaimed his throne, the silent collapse of masculine energy. It all starts with good intentions. You want to be understanding, kind, different from other men. So you start to yield. A little here, a little there. You explain too much, justify too much. And without realizing it, the center of gravity shifts. You stop being the axis and start orbiting around her. At first, she admired you for your firmness and for knowing what you wanted without apology. But when she senses that you begin to move according to her moods, something breaks. Respect doesn't die in a single argument. It dissolves in the absence of structure. The feminine instinctively feels when the masculine stops being the pillar. She may say she wants a sensitive man, but unconsciously, she recoils when that sensitivity turns into submission. The feminine expands. The masculine anchors. When the anchor loosens, the ship drifts. Kindness is not the problem. The problem is when kindness is born from fear, when it becomes a strategy to avoid rejection, when "I understand" secretly means "please don't leave." That's the emotional frequency where respect collapses. She might stay physically, but emotionally she's already gone. She senses, though she'll never say it, that she lost the man and was left with the boy trying to keep her through sweetness. And though she may still care for you, her instinct doesn't lie. Feminine desire feeds on the strength she feels in you, not on the comfort she controls. The man who gives too much believes he's building intimacy, but he's erasing mystery. Every explanation kills magnetism. The feminine moves toward the unknown, not the fully explained. Once she feels she's decoded you, desire fades. A woman respects the man who remains a universe, not a map. The man who can hold silence without anxiety, listen without justifying, receive without being molded. The silent collapse of masculine energy happens when a man reacts to her emotions instead of guiding them. It's almost invisible. She tests, he yields, she withdraws, he chases, she changes tone, he adjusts. Little by little, the masculine disappears, and the feminine unintentionally takes control. And that's when desire dies. Because feminine attraction isn't drawn to predictability. It's drawn to presence. Presence is what remains. Even when the wind changes, the emotional symbol is clear. The man who loses magnetism because he bends to every gust of her moods. He believes he's being kind, but he's only being reactive. And respect cannot survive where there is no structure. The way back begins when you stop trying to stabilize her and choose to stabilize yourself. When you understand your role isn't to control what she feels, but to sustain what you are. True strength isn't about dominating the other. It's about mastering your own field. And when you return to that silent center, she feels it. Your voice changes, your gaze deepens, your energy grounds again. And the respect that once vanished returns, not because you demanded it, but because you reconnected to its source. The paradox of respect. She only respects the man who can lose her. Feminine respect doesn't come from her fear of losing you. It comes from your calm readiness to let her go. It sounds paradoxical, but it's the foundation of mature attraction. The man who isn't afraid of loss becomes magnetic. The one who fears it dissolves. Most men live reactively. The moment they sense distance, their ego panics. They text more, try to fix things, chase explanations. But the more they try to close the gap, the more they disconnect from themselves, and the more she feels that absence. It's the silent cycle of devaluation. A woman respects the man who stays whole even when rejected, because he radiates coherence. He doesn't change his essence based on her reaction. He knows his value isn't in being desired, it's in being. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who knows how to lose. He doesn't play to win. He plays to be authentic. And the feminine instantly perceives a masculine that doesn't depend on her acceptance. That detachment isn't indifference. It's maturity. When a man fears loss, he starts negotiating his boundaries. He adapts, shrinks, sacrifices truth to preserve connection. But the first thing he loses is respect. And once respect dies, love turns into obligation. The feminine unconscious associates emotional stability with the capacity for detachment. A man who can walk away, not out of pride but integrity, awakens an ancient archetype in her. The warrior who has already mastered his own battles. He doesn't leave from indifference. He leaves when something no longer rings true. And then something powerful happens. His absence becomes presence. The space he leaves becomes a mirror. It forces her to face herself. And sometimes that silence restores the respect that words never could. But for this to happen, a man must release the illusion of control. Respect cannot be requested, it can only be perceived. And that perception arises when she sees a man capable of loss who still remains whole. Serenity and scarcity is what most activates feminine admiration. Not over-availability, not emotional pleading, but the calm of a man who knows love cannot be begged for. The emotional symbol is vivid, the warrior lowering his sword, not from weakness but from mastery. He can love deeply and still know when to step back. That's the paradox. The more willing you are to lose her, the more she truly sees you. Because respect is perception of value, and value is presence plus detachment. The man who understands this doesn't play the game of scarcity. He embodies abundance. He doesn't create distance artificially to be desired. He simply stays connected to his own completeness. When the masculine vibrates in integrity, the feminine relaxes, and the respect that once faded transforms into silent reverence. She looks at him again, not with pity, but with admiration. Because the man who knows how to lose has already won the inner game. Feminine respect isn't sustained by words. It lives in energy. It's born from presence, dies in need, and is reborn in integrity. The man who understands this stops reacting and starts radiating. He doesn't need tactics, because he is the reference point. When the masculine anchors within itself, the feminine naturally bows, not in submission, but in recognition. True masculine power is silent. It doesn't need to be seen, only felt.